meeting to order.
You're now live.
We need a minute now to go live. Yeah.
You're live.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla.
You're welcome.
Okay, starting off our board meeting. Would someone like to move to approve the minutes, please, as circulated?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, lots of choices there. Jennifer,
Okay.
all right. All in favor? All right, business arising.
Okay. All right, so the revised employee policy, I had asked if we could push that off to discussion till September. It's not time sensitive. Kimberly very nicely offered to go through it and check for any spelling or grammatical errors. I don't think there were any grammatical, but there was a few spelling things that we need to change. I know, Bob, you had some issues with some of the wording. I did circulate to all of you through email that the Township Human Resource Officer has indicated that this is not wording we can change without affecting our benefits as employees. But we can have that debate in September if you are in agreement to defer it. And I can even have Tammy come to the meeting to speak to that particular clause. Would that help?
Whatever, you know, I can see quite plainly that it's incorrect.
I have no expertise there, so.
But I can see plainly that it is incorrect. If doing the wrong thing is the right thing, so be it. I don't want to get us in trouble with the insurance company, but there is no such thing as non-occupational income. But there is such a thing as non-occupational disability income protection. Mm. And that's what the Insurance Association has on their website. So anyway, I don't want to continue to hammer the point. It's just, it doesn't make sense to do the wrong thing, but if it's for the right reason, maybe we do.
Okay. Okay, so Kimberly, there weren't a lot of changes. It's just, I think I should have used shall instead of some other word, and I've got T's where there should have been, you may want to approve it as is with the changes, because I have, since sending out the agenda package, received these spelling changes from Kimberly, or you may want to wait till September, and that's fine too.
Yeah, they were all minor things. Yeah, like, you know how your finger gets stuck on a key and you type two T's instead of one, that kind of thing.
Which frankly, even if, so nothing that is fundamental to the policy, it's just really tidying it. And I'm sorry, I know there's been a couple of these over the last year, so I'm having a really hard time seeing the screen right now. And it's hard to get in to see an ophthalmologist to try to get this sorted. So, and normally I could pawn it off to another staff member, but when we're working at home or alone in the building, it's a little more difficult to get this done in a timely manner. So it's up to the board, Madam Chair, whether you want to approve it now or wait until September.
Okay, I'm up for discussion. Does anybody have an opinion either way? Not really. Mary, did you want to say something?
Yes, and I was muted.
No,
Sorry.
you
Yeah, I muted myself. My husband was coming in and carrying some stuff. I think we should just wait till September, and maybe that other question will get resolved too. So there you go.
Okay. Does somebody want to go back to the insurance company, Jennifer, and just check the wording?
Okay, if you want Tammy to come to the meeting in September to go through this with you, but what she has informed me is that she spent several rounds sending it to whoever it is at the benefit company that has to look at that, and they approve the wording. So that's why we can't change it, because it's not just been approved by the council's policy, but it's been approved by the provider of the benefit package, right? So you can't when they've approved that and said, use this wording, whether it's correct or not, that would affect employees in the township. So
Okay.
now we can have her in September to explain this more fully, but that is what she's told me.
Bob?
The only thing I would say is that should the situation arise where there was a disability that occurred away from the office, away from the employment, that due to the wording, I think there is some question as to whether coverage actually would apply. So I think it's in the best interest of the employees of the township to have the wording in the correct form. But once again, two wrongs make a right. I'm not going to stand in the way.
Jennifer, did she actually ask about that phrase, or did she?
Yes, I did. And so that's what she addressed. And she said that it cannot be changed or it would affect the benefit provision for all employees in the township.
But it sounds to me like it needs to affect the benefit provision for all of the employees in the township.
And I understand what you're saying, Mary, but the fact of the matter is that this has been the approved wording, whether they're screw ups and shouldn't have approved it that way, from the benefit provider. So either we go back and revisit the package that we have from, and I'm not even sure whether it's solely our benefit provider or also EI. So, and I have no problem with having Tammy come and you ask her questions related to this and ask her to go back to them. I don't have the ability to direct Tammy's work, but you as a board could say, you know, this is a provision that affects our employees. Therefore, we request that you go and have the provider give us a little more detail about why this is necessary.
Well, and I think too that like more than once when I was employed by the Board of Education, by the Simcoe District School Board, they would have to make changes and amendments, and they would just send us out a little piece of paper saying, substitute this and put it right there. And you'd see that the wording was just changed slightly because it had been incorrect. So, you know, it's an amendment. It's not the change of the whole
policy. It's an amendment, but we can't amend council policy.
Yeah. All right, so let's get her here.
Let's get her in September, and she can go over it with, because right now we're playing broken telephone. You know, you're saying, here's our question. I'm telling her what the question is. She's giving me the answer and I'm giving it back to you. And I think I'm giving it to you right. But better we hear it from the horse's mouth, and then she'll know exactly, you know, she'll understand more fully what you're asking of her, and she can move forward on that. And I think that's more fair to her than just me saying, you know, the board has queried this. Can you speak?
Bob, did you want to say something?
I think perhaps the best order here would be to conform to the accepted wording at this point in time and accept the employee policy as it stands. But then at a later time, we can go back and raise the issue with Tammy and see if we can't get it corrected. Because I do have some concern about whether or not the employees of the township would be at a disadvantage with that wording in the policy. But I would today vote for acceptance of the employee policy as written, with the proviso that we revisit this question at a later date.
So in September?
September would be fine, yeah.
Okay. Any other opinions on this? Does someone want to make a motion that we approve the policy?
Bob has made the motion. We need a second.
Somebody want to second it? Okay, either John or Pam. All in favor? Okay.
Great.
All right, so I guess we're going to ask her to clarify it in September then still, Jennifer.
Well, what I would like to do, Madam Chair, is have her come to the board meeting. And then we can ask her directly and she can give us feedback. And then if you have follow-up questions, she can respond to them there. And it's just, and then if we can give her, you know, well, we're not sure of this, can you find out some more direction from the providers, insurance providers, she would better understand than just, you telling me what to ask her, I ask her, and hopefully, it's like I say, it's like broken telephone, I'm sure. So better to have her, if not in the building, at least on the virtual Zoom meeting.
Okay. Bob, did you want to add anything?
Jennifer, I just wanted to ask, did she see a copy of my message at all, or did you just discuss?
Yes, she did. I forwarded that to her because I didn't want to gap on any of the wording.
Okay, thank you.
So she knows what the concern was.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
All right. I will advise her on that. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have got the grab and go form, which Pam created for us, and we've modified somewhat because we've created it for each branch. It was a little more, the form isn't that complex, but we didn't have Google Forms on our branch email accounts, so that's been added. And it's only a slight cost, so we can certainly absorb that. And that way somebody can ensure that the request goes to their branch rather than, out to an email address, and it just makes it more timely. Okay, so we have had the municipal as well as the board meeting with the Simcoe County Library Cooperative consultants for the service review. I think both went very well, and the feedback I've received from other CEOs in the county is that everybody said pretty much what we said. And so that's good. The only other thing is they have come back to each CEO and asked for some additional information. So we are getting that information together. Some of it is information that the county cooperative is going to provide in terms of, what are the costs of some of these services and that sort of thing. So that should go to them within the next week or two. They haven't given us the deadline on that. So
That's additional services, Jennifer?
No, they're looking at all the things. What are the costs and what are the economic benefits and that sort of thing. They've asked a number of questions, but they're not something that just the CEO can answer. There's a whole bunch of tabulations and calculations that have to be done at the county level. So the Gail Hall, who's the county cooperative CEO, is going to provide that in the next couple of days to all of us, and then we can move forward answering some of their questions. They just want more data to be able to use in their report, and that makes perfect sense. But I'm just letting you know that's the stage it's at right now. But so far it's been very positive. Okay, we had some questions about, Bob, you raised some issues with the May Library GL, which I've gone back to the treasurer and to Terry Vachon, who's the general manager of Parks, Recreation and Culture. And the salary lines are right on for the time period. When you add up all the salary and benefit times, they match where they were actually a little lower than they should be at that point in time. And you had asked about the Stainer branch and the utilities and heating. And Terry has got back to me and said that in order to achieve some cost savings, rather than having two separate contracts, the Stainer Community Center has taken over the HVAC and heating contracts for the entire facility. So he, at this point, is not charging us back because even though the library looks big, what we're actually using is minimal. And so that's why you're not seeing that information in the GL. It's not that there's been, no, we haven't paid our bills or that it hasn't been entered by the Treasury Department. It's actually been that aspect of costing is being taken over for us by Parks and Rec and Culture Department.
So will we be subject to a chargeback at a later date then? Is that
no? That's not his plan to do that. Okay. He thinks that would be more administrative cost than it would be worth. So there is a real plus for being part of a facility. And that's all I had to say about the business arising on my report. Do you want me to go on with the CEO's report? Okay. Okay, so we continue to receive donations towards the Stainer Library building project. I know there's a major donation that is coming whenever we can open, which is soon. And we did actually this month receive a request for public participation, which Pam, I think you're going to bring up under other business. We've never had one before, so we didn't put it in the agenda, but we will be dealing with that. So there is another major donation coming up, but when we were closing out the old Stainer branch, we did have the Grey Highlands Public Library CEO come with her husband and remove some of the excess shelving that was just going to go to the metal company in Creemore. It's
Midwest.
right.
Yeah.
So they've given us a donation for some of the shelving that they took, which if it's got a new home, that's fine with me. The staff at the library have all had sprig training, and I'm now meeting with staff to help them devise their goals to submit in sprig this year. And in this incredibly vast agenda package, you will see all the documentation related to the CEO's performance review. Now, Madam Chair, you had noted that, again, because I'm going blind, I didn't manage to catch all the switches for council to board and CAO to CEO. So if you see that in there, those are the only changes that need to be made. And I have gone through the document subsequently and made those changes. But you can see it's a very detailed performance. It's a SMART performance, which is specific, measurable, achievable, reliant, relevant, and timely. And it mirrors the CAO performance. So in many respects, the board is functioning the same as council functions when they review the CAO. I think this policy is very important for us because, unless you I'm sure you will find some ground for constructive criticism, and I am open to that. But the really important thing, and something that is not in our strategic plan, but I think in the next couple of years, the board needs to address, whether it's in the plan or not, is succession planning. And when you have a new person walk into this position, you really need to start fresh and start doing good quality performance reviews. May not be you may not all be in subsequent boards, but it needs to take place because I've now been here 30 years and this will be my first performance review. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. But certainly the next person who walks into this job should have more structured feedback, which is not to say that the boards over the years have not given me structured feedback, but it hasn't been in the form of a detailed performance review. So you've got that before you. I don't know whether you've had enough time to look at it that you would want to approve it at this point, or whether you'd want to delay that until September, so that you can have a more fulsome look and so that I can switch council for board and CAO for CEO. But those are the only minor changes that would need to be made.
Any comments from anybody?
There is so much in there that I'd like to have a little extra time just to read through it in more detail. I skimmed through it, but it didn't do it any justice at all. I've been so busy this week. And so if you could postpone it until September, that might be a good idea.
Well, and then I can clean it up.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll send it out to you with the cleaned up version by email. And that'll just make it easier because I see there's something in there that slipped into the agenda package somehow about ergonomic design.
Yeah,
That's got nothing to do with it. So yeah, I'm open to that, and I can.
Wasn't you sitting at that little computer?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that would be fine with me. Anybody have any objections?
No, I agree.
Okay, we'll postpone
That's
till
fine.
September to pass it then.
Just to let you know that we have received our contract fee from the Township of Adjalatas. They're usually very good about processing payment after they've signed the agreement.
Okay.
Don't expect Mulmers until December, but that's, as long as we get it, that's okay. We have interviewed and have subsequently hired 2 summer students for our summer reading program. One has been in university for a year and the other one is starting university in September. And our programs will be virtual this year in light of the pandemic, but later in the summer, we will be making an appearance at the Stainer Music Market and Parket. And Michelle, we'll be going into the gazebo because we need electricity, because I will be purchasing, we deferred a year, and I can't even remember what it's called anymore, but it's a little thing about the size of a pack of cards that will allow us, once we plug it in and it has electricity, to allow people to download ebooks without using a library card.
Right.
All they need is their smartphone or their device on them.
Okay.
As long as they've got data so they can connect to it. But it will have its own Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so when things open up a bit more, if we're having an event, if we're part of an event at a hall and there's electricity, we could go and participate in that and have that as an additional programming offering. So I think it's going to be great, and we will use it well once things open up a bit more, but we certainly, once we can participate again in the Stainer Music Market and Parket, we'll be able to have that. Yes, Bob.
You're muted, Bob.
Is that device use a lot of power?
No.
No. Then something I think we might consider doing is looking to see if we can't get a porta-power type of unit that basically you charge it up and then you can run small devices on for quite a long period of time. It allows you to be more flexible. You don't have to worry about running cords to your location, and they're not all that expensive. So it means that you could be out and about with the thing a little bit more than being tied to an extension cord.
Now, I'm going to delegate that to Michelle. So can you look into that and find out what that might cost us? And can you also get in touch with Terry Vachon and see if maybe he already has one that we might be able to utilize, at least to get us started?
On it.
All righty.
Okay, good.
Excellent. Last night at our council meeting, I presented the report for the board related to our Ontario Trillium Foundation Resilient Communities Fund grant. And the $14,000 we were awarded. I believe just over 12,000 we've already received for this. I have put the order in for the laptops that were part of the application, and they're to come July 12th. The other equipment we haven't ordered yet, but it will come a lot faster, so there's no hurry and it wasn't as huge a cost. We have some additional room in that funding because I was able to get a really good, even better rate than the county IT department could get me. And so I will go back to the Ontario Trillium Foundation and see how we can use that additional funding of a couple of $1,000s up. It has to be in line with what we asked for initially. So what I hope to go back to them with is a proposal that we have an additional laptop at each branch for staff who aren't currently assigned a laptop, so that if they need to do programming, because we do have almost all of our circulation staff are responsible for one program. And we partly did this because we hadn't been doing it before, because our request for virtual programs has been overwhelming and our current full-time staff could not do all of it. But also because when we've been closed, it was a morale booster. They're all capable of doing this. They may not be able to design and deploy a wide variety of programs, but they were all capable of doing, one in addition to their normal duties. And it just helped them feel better about what they were contributing to the library, because this has been a very hard time to work in a public library. Public library staff, except in really big libraries where the technical staff never want to come out of the back room, are people who love people and they want to be out there and talking to and exchanging book and video and what have you ideas with members of the public. And they're really, they're doing that on the phone, but it's not the same. So we looked to providing them this opportunity as a means to give them a little more self-worth about how they're participating in providing library service. I don't think virtual programming is going away anytime soon. People will be really happy at some point, when they're not afraid to be near other people, to come back into the library setting for programs. But there's always going to be, now that it's there, a demand for some programming. For example, one of our staff whose first language is Spanish is providing conversational Spanish program. And that's been popular. It's been very popular. And I can see that as something that people would want to continue, and maybe in a virtual format, because some weeks she has quite a few people. We might have a little trouble accommodating them all in one place, even in the community center. And also, if people have to come from all parts of the township to participate, some of them don't participate because they don't want to do the drive. We have 3 branches. We're blessed to have so many in a municipality of our size, but we still have many communities that have people in them that don't have that. And virtual programming allows them to participate in programs without having to, actually go to another community to be in it, which is sometimes nice. You don't want to be stuck in your house all the time. But I don't think it's going away. And I think that if we have some additional laptops exclusively for staff needing to do programming who aren't assigned their own, it would allow us to facilitate that a little more easily. And it would also ensure that the security software is what we're using on everything else in the library.
Yep.
So I think security is a real issue. In terms of strategic goals, yes, we've transitioned to the new Stainer branch. One of the things you were going to talk about at this meeting was reviewing the open hours. So you can hit me if you want, but I haven't done any work on that because, quite frankly, our open hours are still kind of screwed up because of the pandemic. July 5th, the province will allow public libraries to open for general use by the public. We're not open on Monday, we're opening on Wednesday. So for us, it would be July 7th. And Pam will bring this up under other business. But right now, it looks good, but we still are going to have capacity limits. We're not going to have a feel for how we're being used in the branches for a while. I mean, last year was a disaster. If I brought you figures from last year, it would be meaningless in terms of what hours are of use to people, because that's really what we're about. What hours do they want us to be open so they can access us? So I think we need to maybe push this off to sometime in 2022, when hopefully, we don't have capacity limits, and we can look at a few months at least where we can see how we're being used. Because especially for the Stainer branch, 2019 figures aren't going to be relevant because we're not in that little confined space anymore. And I think we really need some good hard numbers on how we're being used in normal, with quotation marks, times before we can make decisions about hours, at least for that branch.
I would agree. I think there isn't a lot of opportunity to see how the public's really going to react to our new branch, but how they're going to come back to our other 2 branches. I guess we are going to go into what was previously called the gray zone for July the 5th, 6th, 7th. That's not going to give us much information either. So I think it makes a lot of sense to postpone it until next year sometime to really start putting some dates or putting some hours on days.
Yeah.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. I don't have anything to report on accessibility. I know that on the 21st, there's going to be painting of the Stainer branch or the entire facilities parking lot. And you will see where things are going at that point in terms of the accessible parking spaces. And that's all been reviewed by the accessibility committees.
What date is that?
The 21st. So it's the Monday.
You know, I watched the committee meeting. I watched that video today, and I have some really serious concerns about having that parking lot painted at this point in time with the plan that was put forward by the rec department. The barrier-free parking spaces that there'll be 2 in front of the library and 4 to the west side of the entrance to the arena. They do not meet FAD's requirements. That is our own guidelines. They're not going to meet them. And I really can't believe that after 5+ years, our engineers aren't in tune with our FADs. So I wrote a long letter to Deb today expressing my concerns, but I really, if they paint that whole parking lot and then we have to change the size, especially the depth of the parking spaces for our barrier-free spaces, then all of the parking lot is going to be improperly painted, because it will push the parking lot out about, it will push the parking in front of the arena up that noses into the arena wall. It'll push it out about 3 feet, 4 feet. That'll make the aisle, the drive through of the closest to the arena too narrow. It means that everything would have to be moved south a wee bit. I think, I don't know. I think there's a big problem there.
Well, I'm glad you let Deb know. And if she copies me on anything, I'll certainly forward it to you. You'll get it too, but I'll let all the board members know, Bob.
Okay. Yeah. If you want, I could copy the board with the.
Oh, could you do that? That would be great.
Then everybody would be on the same page at least.
Bob, it's Kimberly here. I'm just wondering, is it that the spaces as they're planning to paint them won't allow room for like wheelchairs or other mobility devices to be, be beside the vehicle so people can get in and out? Is it like that?
There's no way to know really, because the plan that Terry showed us, while it's got some dimensions on it, the dimensions of the width of the spaces looks a little bit wider than the rest of the general parking. The minimum requirement is 4.6 feet, or 4.6 meters. But there is a requirement under FADs that there be two size spaces provided. Of the 6 spaces that are provided, 3 have to be for van parking and 3 have to be for normal parking. In other words, you don't have to worry about discharging a wheelchair out of the side of the van. The second thing is that the way the plan shows right now, you have to leave the vehicle and go to the library or the arena through the parking lot. If you happen to be in a wheelchair, you're about the height of a child. And if that's in a traffic area where actually will be a lot of traffic with cars pulling up to the front door of the arena and leaving people off, that puts those people into an unnecessarily precarious position. So those are 2 of the issues that we're looking at. And the other, apart from the painting, there is also the landscaping project. I don't know where that stands as far as the tendering for it, but the way it shows on the plan now is that the space in front of the cars where the library parking is would be onto grass. And the new hard surface in front of the library and the arena entrance does not extend to the front of the parking spots along on the west side of the front entrance. I don't know whether that's part of the tendering process for the landscaping or whether it's a separate issue, but there's a lot of things.
I can advise that the landscaping hasn't been tendered just yet. But that's all I know.
John, did you want to say something?
Yeah, my understanding was the two parking spots to the west. The reason the sidewalk wasn't extended over there, it had to do with the snow coming off the roof of the building. And that it would actually land right there, which would create another problem. So I'm not sure how that can be addressed.
So if that is an issue, that the possible ice or snow falling off that roof, we also have to consider that all the cars parked along there are at risk, and anybody getting in and out of their vehicles will face the same risk. But if it is an issue that says that we shouldn't be putting our barrier-free parking there, then having it closer to the building and putting the pedestrians into the parking lot to get to the entrance is not in compliance with our FAD. So the township had put that in place back in 2015, and it's mandatory that it be followed.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, can you outline where you think it doesn't meet it? I just checked and I've confirmed with the staff that it does meet the FADs. So I'm unsure as to what the dispute is.
Okay. So FAD requires that there be a pathway between the building and the parking spot to allow someone to go from their vehicle to the front entrance without passing through the traffic area of the parking lot. That is illustrated very clearly in the FAD's document. Further, the FAD's document.
There are parking bollards that between the parking and the building.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
There are parking bollards between the parking and the building.
You're
So-
muted,
Oh.
Mr. Mayor.
I can't hear you. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. You know what I think it is? I put my phone on my computer and I think it mutes things. So it's an interesting situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the parking bollards that are between vehicle and the building create the walking / rolling space when you exit a accessible vehicle. So there's space right next to the building is the space.
Okay.
Is that not clearly spelled out? Because the bollards have to be there. You can't just drive up to the edge of the building. Otherwise people will be bumping into the building, right?
There needs to be a rollover access from the car to that parking space.
Sure.
And if having those wheel stops, those concrete barriers there prevents that from happening.
So, Madam Chair, did the committee pass it? The Accessibility Advisory Committee, did they accept it?
I don't know.
I mean, it's not up to us to decide. It's up to the Accessibility Committee to decide.
I don't think there was a motion to accept it or pass it. I don't remember seeing that motion.
Okay. Well, we can always ask a question, but I appreciate you bringing it up.
Okay.
Well, and exactly now, is the time to, if changes need to be made,
Yeah.
Bob's right, we need to make it before the whole parking lot gets painted.
Yeah, for sure.
So Bob, who did you copy on this? Did you send it?
I said it only to Deb, as
Okay.
chair of the accessibility committee.
So if you share it with all of us, then the mayor can maybe approach it from his end. And I will ensure that Terry Vachon and Dan Perot, who's Public Works Deputy Director, also receive a copy so they understand exactly what, I think they'll understand better than any of us sitting here what you're saying. And maybe that can move things forward a little bit. Obviously, you've done the right thing. You've gone to the chair of the committee, but maybe the people involved in it at a higher level need to know as well. So if you can do that, then both the mayor and I can maybe help everybody out on this.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I can only write so fast.
I know.
Okay, so now that we've got the employee policy out of the way, my next big project for the summer is revising the job descriptions. Now, this is not only because we should have the last time, except my job description was revised in 2018. I can't remember why, but all the other ones date from 2013. So it's timely to have them revised now. Now, not only is it a good administrative thing to revise them and relook at them on a regular basis, but it's also in preparation for the township-wide market value assessment that's going to come up and the pay equity review that's coming. So these are things that need to get done. So that's, again, it's difficult to do when you're working in several workplaces and when you can't see the screen, but that's what I'll be doing over the course of most of the summer. In terms of space development and modernization, I had nothing to report at the time, but subsequent, Barrie Public Library is tearing all its shelving out of its Painswick branch. And so I had the opportunity to attend there with Chris Vandercruz. And unfortunately, we have no place to put any of their spanking new shelving that they're getting rid of. But we do at our Creemore branch have slot wall shelving. So when you see the end shelving there, there's slots. And so I got some of the book display units that fit onto these slots for the Creemore branch. I also picked up acrylic book displays that you can put on top of. I mean, if you go into some of the branches now, you'll just see a book sitting there and we hope it doesn't fall over. These are nice acrylic book display units that allow you to put a book up and it will stay up and you won't wreck the book and it won't fall over and it won't hit anybody. So I got a number of those, a box load of those. And I picked up about $500 worth of bookends. So just saved us some money there. So in terms of space development and modernization, the slot wall display units and the one book a piece display acrylics, I think are really important. And bookends are always important. And you always feel crappy about, spending $6 on a bookend when nobody really sees it. But if you don't have a bookend, everything falls over. So this was a good task for me to complete. I don't have anything. Under greening the library, I can tell you that Dan Perot in the Public Works Department is going to arrange to have some of the dead limbs on the trees at the Creemore branch removed for us. Right. So like to keep our properties looking good. And in terms of staff and board and volunteer development, we do have staff who are training. They have completed their training on Sprig and we're working through that. And I also have several staff who are working towards completing their library technician diplomas and their what used to be the SOLS small library management certificates. So staff, in addition to the regular duties, are on their own continuing to work to some of these training goals.
Good.
Now, I don't have the May statistics for you yet, but you do have the March and April in front of you. Again, I don't have comparators for last year because last year was insane. So we didn't even do some of these for the years. I'm just trying to flip through and see if there's anything that really stands out. You can see a big difference between April and March in terms of programming. They've gone up considerably. So if you look at our programming in April, it is nearly at what a normal April would be for us. And, you know, especially when we're doing programs for the schools, the kindergarten program is at 335, even though we're doing it virtually. So we're still almost at hitting as many kindergarten students virtually as we would if we were going into the classroom. And that's because our children's librarian has developed a really good relationship with the elementary school teachers and librarians.
Good.
And still, you know, if you look at April, our Wi-Fi was 401. So there's a lot of people sitting in the parking lot using, even when they can't come in.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
Those, when I've been into the library picking up my curbside pickups, that table with all the, that's the grab and goes on the right-hand side there? Is that what those are?
You mean at the Stainer branch?
Yeah,
No, that we coordinate. Michelle, can you speak to that? He's talking about the seed program.
Hi there. Yes, right there is the Good in Every Grain program that we had out for the plant sale. Now, we did well with the plant sale, but they had that located at the far end of the parking lot, so we didn't do quite as well as we expected. People weren't coming into the actual branch.
So those big bags that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good for every grain.
Okay.
We had 99 of those in total, and I pulled them all back here for that weekend. So we did give out some. We gave out some of the little ray of sunshine. There's some Simcoe County Museum kits as well.
Mhm.
But once again, the traffic was all outside. They didn't come into the foyer.
But people are coming in when they're picking up their curbside pickup and taking.
So they're slowly going that way.
Oh, so those aren't a reserved thing that you can.
No, and there's signage there, Bob. It says
staying free
to pick up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It will change in July 2nd or 7th, sorry, on the Wednesday. So it's a transition period right at the moment.
Okay, and so if there's no more questions on the numbers, then I think we've looked at the CEO performance review and moved that to September. So the next item would be the report to council, which was presented last night at the council meeting. It just goes over the purpose of the grant, the amount, the fact that it does not affect the budget because it 100% covers everything we're purchasing. And then we have only one item for correspondence, Madam Chair, and that's from our MP, Terry Dowdle. And he has written to the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion, that's a long title, regarding CELA funding. And he's been very good on this subject matter when we sent him out the initial letter with the boards requesting his support. I did send it through regular mail, but I also emailed it to him as well as these two ministers, a copy to these two ministers. And he phoned me up within half an hour of having it been emailed, and it's very much in support of ensuring that CELA's funding is continued by the federal government and is trying to push that forward as part of its overall agenda. So that is good news for us.
Thank you. All right, we have the financial reports.
So, and really the only changes are the interest, and we received, so in the last 2 months, $210 in donations towards the Stainer building project, library building project. So there's still activity there, which is why we haven't closed out the account and just given the money over to the township, which we will do at some point. But we are still intaking. And as I say, once we open, we should have a major donor step forward with a check. And when that is arranged, I will make sure that Councillor Broderick and your worship and Madam Chair, you as well. If you're not available, then we'll get somebody else for the check presentation. But it will all be done nicely and social distancing, and hopefully it will be a lovely sunny day like today.
Okay, good.
That'll be great.
Now on to other business. So do you want to bring something up, Pam?
Yeah, so the since council, I guess, is now, it's not allowing people to come in person to make deputations or comments. They have a public participation form where they can address concerns. And there was a public participation form put in about the library. And it's a paragraph. I'll just maybe read it. Would that be appropriate, Jennifer?
Sure.
Okay. So this is from a member of the public who says, I expect reopening discussions will be on your agenda and hopefully there is a plan in place. I am begging you to please make reopening at 15% capacity as is allowed by the province an urgent priority. Lack of access to library service has been a major trial of this pandemic and is especially critical for marginalized populations. Curbside pickup and grab a bag cannot replace in-person visits and other services. I expect the staffing levels which have been maintained throughout the lockdown are sufficient to allow immediate reopening, even if reduced hours are required temporarily until more staff are scheduled. Thank you for your efforts, especially over the last 15 months, and for ensuring our community can enjoy the gift of library services. So that was somebody asking us to open, I guess, before even step 2. So I guess that comes to us and we discuss it.
Well, we can't open for use of the building in general until July 5th, which is a Monday. So our next opening day would be July 7th. And the plan is that all branches will open July 7th for their normal hours, with the except on Tuesdays, because I simply do not have enough staffing to ensure proper cleaning of the building and monitoring of the people who are coming in, because we have to make sure they follow all the provincial regulations that are coming out specifically for libraries opening, and also the medical officer of health for the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. So that's why we're not opening to the public on Tuesdays, which is a normal open day, but we do have administrative staff in the building. The only exception to that is because I only have one person on staff in Creemore on Fridays, and we are still segregating the southern branches from the Stainer branch to ensure we don't have cross-contamination. I don't have someone to cover Glenda Boudreau's shift for lunch. So we are closing for 1 hour. But we will resume being open until 9 o'clock at both Creemore and Stainer for the days that we are normally open through the week. And our weekend hours have not changed throughout as long as we're open, they've always been the same. So the actual numbers that we're looking at, based on what the province is telling us, will be for the Stainer branch, we will have up to 20 members of the public in the building. That's not including staff, that's just members of the public. This is based on the building code capacity for each site. And we will have up to 10 members of the public coming in to use the Creemore and New Lowell facilities because they're virtually the same size in terms of floor space. So that is the plan. We will allow people to use the computers. It will be the same as we had it before. I know they'd like to be on it for a full hour, but they'll only get half an hour because when we have fewer people in the building, we need them to use it and move on so somebody else can get in and get their turn. Wi-Fi will be available in all 3 branches. If you have your own device, I don't care how long you're on your device, it's your device, but we will again stipulate that you keep your time in the building to 1 hour so that we can keep moving people through. We only had one incident last year where we had to close off the Stainer Library because we had met capacity. So I think if we continue to follow these guidelines, that we're not going to have an issue of, someone has to stand and say, no, you can't come in. There's too many people in the building. And I've got to tell you, people really want to come back in and they want to see us and they want to have a wee bit of a chat, but they do not want to linger for an excessive period of time. I mean, the bulk of people don't. They recognize it's a pandemic and that they're fortunate when we open to be able to come in. And so they come in, they browse, they take what they need, and they leave. One thing I should tell you is that based on one of the things that the province has changed in the opening, we will no longer be quarantining materials coming into the building. The province does not feel that is necessary. Everything coming out of the Centers for Disease Control has indicated that the viral load on the materials coming back is so low that the likelihood of you picking anything up is extremely low. I am still insisting that staff, when they're emptying drop boxes, use their masks and gloves and wash their hands after removing their gloves, because those are confined spaces. But once the material is out on tables to a desk to be checked in, the science says that it's not a problem. If staff staff have to wear their masks, but if they want to wear gloves too, we will certainly support the provision of that kind of PPE so that they have the feeling of being safe.
Jennifer?
Yes.
The person mentions that can libraries be open in step 1? Like, I think
we can be
Hollywood
open for people to use computers.
Right, okay.
But, we have limited staff in the building, and the ability for them to be able to monitor and ensure that's all they're using it for. I just don't have enough staff to facilitate that, or we would have done that. So that's why that's not been going on. And we initially, when we had to close, but the province allowed this last year, there was a little push from 1 or 2 people, but not many.
Yeah.
Most people were happy to let it go. On a couple of occasions, we had people say, but I've got this government document I have to print off and I don't have a printer at home. And we printed that off and put it in their grab and go bag.
Nice.
So
is there a process for responding to public participation form?
This is the process. This is the process. And the public participation form is actually ours based on the townships, and it is put up at the same time on our website that the agenda package is put up. So
then how does the person did they get like feedback or any kind of response?
I can respond, or one would assume that they would be watching us right now to find out what we're talking about. But I can certainly get back to this individual and say, this is what's going on. This is our plan of action.
So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think when we get to stage 3 or step 3 or whatever they're calling it this week, we will start handling money again. And we will do it in a very secure and safe way. But we certainly, once people start coming in the building, they want the money services.
Yeah.
Yes, Bob.
It's interesting that listening to some of the discussion on a few call-in programs to CBC at the noon programs, that there seems to be a consensus that stage 3 or whatever it is that they're calling it now, the third, where we will actually be able to open, will be accelerated in all likelihood. So the 21-day period that you'd normally have to wait between opening periods is probably going to be shrunk. So I think we could anticipate that we will be back to something close to normal procedures long before we might expect otherwise. So hopefully, like every other patron of the library, I would like to get in there and just browse for books myself. And I look forward to it as well. I can certainly understand what this individual feels about it. And I know that there are patrons too who really need the social contact. That they perhaps don't have. If they're living alone, they maybe have a restricted number of people that they can interact with. And the library is a safe place to go to be able to interact with someone else. So that I see as being one of the big things that has been missing for a long time now for a lot of our patrons. So I certainly empathize with the person who raised the concerns. We'll be open as soon as we can.
No, I agree with you there. I think there's a real lack of understanding, especially in small communities, of how important that is for everyone. But I see it a lot in our Creemore branch. And not saying that everybody in Creemore is alone and lonely, but we get a lot of people who live outside of Creemore and into Mulmer area who, due to the death of a spouse, are now alone. And they can come into the library and browse and chat with staff. And that, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to the pharmacy, you can go to the bank, but they're a business and they're designed to get whatever you need and then get on to the next person, which is not to say that my staff sit there and chat all day, but you can quite often do something on the computer and carry on a side conversation. And staff recognize that that's really part of what they do. In larger communities, in terms of population, you would have senior centers or community centers that provided some kind of similar interaction program, but you don't get that in a rural community. So it's more vital for us than, say, in Collingwood or Wasaga Beach. And it's certainly a service that even your staff have missed providing.
Yeah.
And that's my speech for today.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else want to bring forward any other business? Bob?
One small thing, I was wondering whether or not we should be adding to our agenda an approval of the agenda. It's normal practice for committees of the township to do that, and it's probably good practice for us as well. And it would give us all the opportunity to make a change or make an addition to the agenda before we actually get started.
Madam Chair?
I think that's probably a good idea. Any other discussion about that?
So, Madam Chair, I will add that as well as public participation on the agendas. And if things hold true, we will very rarely have anyone giving us something for public participation, but it will mean that we won't have to add it under other business and it will be dealt early in the agenda.
Okay, Bob?
If I think it would be beneficial to consider putting public participation near the start of the agenda.
Yeah.
If someone wants to see our response to their inquiry or concern, they shouldn't have to wait through the full meeting to see that.
And the only
I don't
reason
know why they would want not to see the excitement of the whole meeting.
Exactly. It's so exciting. And the only reason that we dealt with it this way was that I don't receive information on how much or how many public participation forms we've received until just before the meeting. So that's why we stuffed it in there this time, because it came after the agenda package went out. But if we have it, say, just after approval of the agenda, then whether we receive it or not, it will be at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
Good.
That's good. Hopefully we can meet in person in September.
Remember that there are 8 of you, and Michelle and I will also be there, so that it's 10 people. I don't have a problem meeting with you in person, but it does probably mean that the Creemore branch isn't big enough for us. So we'll see where we are in closer to September, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully there's no 4th wave.
Hopefully we'll all be double vaccinated too by that time.
Yeah.
So that'll reduce the risk considerably for everybody.
Jennifer, did you need to strike a budget committee over the summer?
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we do need a budget committee.
But I thought,
So do we have any volunteers?
I'm not around very much. Bob's on it, he says.
Okay.
Anybody else like to sit on that committee? John would like to sit on it as well.
Great. Now, we won't meet until sometime in August because I would like to take some vacation time. And before the meeting, I will send to you line by line preliminary budget. Most of it will relate to 2022, but the budget is a 5-year budget. So it'll just be preliminary. So you can think about what you would like to see in there. So I've got Bob and John. Is anybody else on the committee? Or, I mean, for a preliminary, and you're going to do up a draft, you don't need a whole lot of people. You just don't need me looking at figures and getting them all wrong because I can't see the screen. Okay, so I will get in touch with you, Bob and John, closer to the end of July to give you a date for August, and we'll make sure that it works for all of us, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. So our next meeting, whether it's in person or virtually, is September
21st.
Okay. By then we'll have an idea of whether it's going to be virtual or not.
Yeah. And where we can have it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it would have to be in the rec center if it's going to be live. It's in Stainer. Or the hall, arena hall, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I guess we're done. Have a good summer, everybody.
One thing to consider, if we do decide to go live, we will have to consider that we may have visitors to our meetings, whether they be invited visitors who are participating in our discussions, or members of the public who want to sit in on the meeting. So wherever we meet would have to be large enough to accommodate some visitors.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn? Pam? Okay, we don't need to second that. Have a good summer, everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Everybody,
Bye.
hope to see you in the library.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
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 Have a great summer.
You too.
Kimberly.
Let's hope it snows. No.
Hey, it snowed here at the end of May and I had accumulation on my plants. I can send you photos, Connie.
I actually saw some up your way, Kimberly, and they looked pretty horrible, I must say. We had a little bit, but it melted. So,
Well, ours
I
did
think-
okay.
and a nice, hot, humid day, snow would be nice. Sorry.
Let's leave that till October.
Okay, good idea. Well, I hope we can meet in person, Jen, in September. That would be nice.
Well, you know what? Even if we can't as a board meet in person because there's too many of us, there's no reason that some of us can't get together if it's allowed. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. But, it's going to happen eventually anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay, but yeah. And it's nice to have this recorded so that people can see it.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
I'm sorry I was late today.
that's okay.
It's been a crappy day. Anyway, thank you.